Hello, Earthlings. Welcome to RGN, the regular guy news, the least pretentious name in news. I am your host. I am your anchor, Dan Black, comedian, not newsman. And I don't know. Let's figure something out, I guess. Welcome to RGN. You know what we do here. We are the least pretentious name in news. We are asking the news, what are you talking about? We're watching the media. We're watching, Jake Tapper. We're watching Don Lemon. We're watching Rachel Maddow. We're watching, I don't know, who's on Fox News? Neil Cavuto. I'm watching Neil Cavuto. What are these guys, what are they talking about? What are they not saying? And I watch, basically what I do is I watch the news and I go, what don't I get? And then I dive 2 articles deep into it, and we have a laugh along the way, and we solve the Earth's problems along the way. Now, before I go on with this podcast, you got to know, if you listen to this podcast is grassroots, okay? We do this podcast. We need you to support the podcast in 2 ways. Tell one friend about this movement and spread the word. Word of mouth is our bond. And also give this podcast 5 stars in your Apple Podcast application. Okay, yeah, do that right now. Do it right now. Any iPhone you got in the house, go, rate it. All right, thank you, appreciate it. Hey, let's get into it. We're after this election. And, before I get into all the spice, why don't we head over on to the satellite and introduce our only RGN correspondent. She's out in the field. Let's see where she is. Ms. Erin Finnerty. Erin, are you there?
Erin. Hello, Dan. Dan, I am here. Live via satellite.
Erin, I hear you. Erin, where are you reporting from? Let people know.
Today, I'm broadcasting live from Los Angeles, California, from my apartment, approximately 1 mile from your house.
Okay, that's where you've always been. That's okay. I'm not sure why I asked, but
I'm in deep cover, Dan. Don't blow this
great,
for
Erin.
me. Don't blow this for me.
Erin, we got a lot to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
Many things to talk about. Just want to know, how are you feeling? Today we're recording this podcast. It is November the 17th, which means that we're exactly 2 weeks out from Election Day. And you work the poll. Erin, we know we work the polls. Erin, how are you feeling after 2 weeks after election? Are you feeling more relaxed? Are you feeling less relaxed? Are you feeling worked up? Are you feeling maybe treasonous? I don't know. You tell me.
Treasonous. When am I not feeling treasonous?
Well, that's one of the 5 emotions, right?
Yeah,
it's, happiness, sadness,
anger, treasonous,
and plagiarism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt a little plagiaristic.
This podcast is blatant plagiarism. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. How do I feel? I feel great. Feel like I'm walking on air. It was a really rough week. 8 days to be exact back there, but 2 weeks out, I'm feeling good, relaxed.
Okay.
I can turn off the TV and sleep at night.
How has your ingestion of news been, up or down, since the election? I mean, not even a good question.
I mean, my consumption of television news has gone down. But I am checking my online news sources, I think, more, equal to what it was like in the days after the election.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird because we're in this
like I resubscribe to like New York Times. I'm on CNN is on my frequently visited. It's the only website on like my web browser's frequently visited sites list. So.
Yeah, that's like mine, and Magic the Gathering websites and WWE wrestling shop merch.
Shop Zone.
Shop Zone. Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting because I do feel like we're in this weird zone right now, which is, I don't know what it is, because it's not like the calm before the storm, because I'm not sure it's still storming, but like, it's Stormy Daniels. Storming Daniels. It's for me. I'm Daniel. It's Storming Daniels. I think, no, because Trump is not conceded. As of this podcast recording right now, not that we ever thought he would.
Yeah.
But also, it's kind of feels a little bit irrelevant, which we'll get into today on the podcast. It's almost like exactly as I expected, which is that he wouldn't concede, and we just would start ignoring him.
Right,
And
right.
now he's
Well,
just off golfing.
yeah, and he's ignoring America.
Right. And so it's kind of interesting because he's already doing it's already happening what I expected when he leaves office. He essentially already left office, where now it's like he just is tweeting, and if you care what he has to say, you're keyed in, and if you don't, you're already tuning him out, right?
Right.
And hopefully that's a good strategy for everyone involved. Anyway, before we get into all the topics of the day officially, although we're getting into it, you guys know you can have your voice heard on this podcast. That's part of the lack of pretension is hitting the mailbag, regularguynews@gmail.com. Send us an email with a question you want answered, a topic you want answered, or a rebuttal of something we said. Anything really you want. You're part of the news here. You're part of the cycle.
Just keep it PG-13 or, nothing crazy, you guys.
But also speak your mind, Also speak your mind. We got the mailbag this week. I'm going to hit the mailbag in kind of an unorthodox way this week and say, mainly, I saw what you guys wrote, and I'm going to say I hear you. We got a couple mailbag items, and they were mainly about topics we should kind of discuss moving forward, which is not really surprising because we have this big transition happening here, and this transition hasn't happened yet. We have this transfer of power that's going, many would say, not going is what they would say. And so, a couple questions. So I just want to let you guys know that you're heard if you have a topic or something that you want us to dive into. And so what I'm going to do is, from the mailbag items we had, I'm going to tell you here's some future topics we're going to be diving into on this podcast.
Sneak preview of the RGN?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to look into the value of unions. Okay? Because unions are something that I personally have a mixed bag feeling about. I think I'm personally in a union. I'm in the SAG-AFTRA union, you would say.
A well-known union.
Yes, it's one of the top unions, I think. I don't know. That and the coal miners union. Those are the two I'm in.
Pat F., a listener of the show, is a former union guy.
SAG-AFTRA guy?
Yeah, he was in SAG-AFTRA. Different union.
Unions. We'll get into that in another episode because I'm actually curious. What's the history of unions' effectiveness? Okay, this is actually something I've gotten to an argument with friends over time. Like some friends they're pretty anti-union. I'm pretty strongly pro-union, but then also I complain a lot about unions. So I don't really, interesting. Going to that. Okay. Then also we were asked about Trump's tax plan / Biden's tax plan, right? I had a conversation yesterday with one of my friends about Trump's tax plan,
Oh, okay.
And he was convinced that Trump's taxes plan was saving him a bunch of money, and I was like, all right, let's look into it. So I haven't looked into it. I doubt it is, to be honest, if in the long run. But I feel like there's not a lot of good explanations about taxes, and I do think people know this. I have a CPA. I've worked.
You're a resident tax guy.
Absolutely, I worked as a tax preparer for a long time. Took a tax exam last week, pissed my pants at my desk.
On purpose.
Absolutely. One of the least professional ways to do taxes is just pissing in your pants while you do them. But many would argue that shows a sense of commitment,
Yeah, hell yeah.
So actually that's something I'm going to dive deep into, especially as Biden's tax plan becomes more concrete. Which tax plans are actually better for most people, and where are they kind of lying to us, right? I feel like there's always this gray area. It's like, it's always like they always the tax. Put it in simple terms. The tax code is extremely complicated, right? So when they're like, we're not gonna raise your taxes if you don't make over this kind of money, but then you're like, well, there's different kinds of incomes, and we kind of know that income is taxed differently, right? So what does that mean exactly? So I'm actually going to dive into that. I'm going to do what I never thought I would do, and basically doing for fun, which is this podcast is for fun, is look deeper into taxes. So I plan to do a lot more a dive into taxes, especially as Biden takes office. So keep that in mind. Also, we got a mailbag item from someone that was responding to self-described friend of mine, and he said it. Okay?
He described himself as a friend of yours.
Described himself as a friend and self-described socialist, Zan Khan, who I will have back on the program as I'm going to use him in a way to specifically. He brought up a point that we shouldn't look at politicians as personalities, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to do, right? Erin and I, admittedly, both already bought Obama's book, okay?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's already started it.
Okay. I mean, I look at Pete Souza's Instagram, pictures of Obama. I look at this guy. He's like a god to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm holding a copy of Becoming by Michelle Obama.
But it is interesting because Bill Clinton was kind of a god to my family growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
right.
then, my takes on Bill Clinton. He's him, Woody Allen. Those are like two guys who were like, could basically be painted on the wall of my house growing up. Mm-hmm. And now we'd be painting over them possibly.
You'd be taking their portraits off the wall. The framed photos you keep above the door, tucking them away.
Not that we need to. I'm not saying they got to be canceled, but I'm saying there are holes in their legacy, and we're holding people to a higher ethical standard now, moral standard, and it's it's interesting how that changes. So anyway, my point is that I'm gonna use Zan Khan to keep me in check, especially going into a Democratic administration. I'm gonna use it to keep me in check. I'll be like, why is? I'm like, hey, I'm gonna bring Zan in, who's agreed to come back a bunch, and I'm like, hey, why do you think this is bad? Okay, so this is stuff we got planned for the Biden-Harris administration.
See, the RGN never sleeps. You might have thought the election was over, the Dems won the presidency. And RGN's gonna go tuck itself back in. No, we're here.
Well, I mean, that being said, we're still following election coverage. This election is not over, and that's
True.
actually we'll be following this Georgia state runoff, senator runoff race, because this actually has
January.
Couldn't be more important. I think the Democrats are fucked over there, but so they have to win both to have a majority in the House, and that would be just I think a 51 seat, counting Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker vote.
Yeah.
So I think that they're screwed, but. We'll see. At least they're lucky to have Biden in office, who's known to make more deals with Republicans, and especially some of those moderate Republicans like what's her name? Susan Collins, I believe, up there in Maine.
Up there in Maine, yeah.
Yeah, who they said was going to lose, and then won pretty decisively. So anyway, okay. First thing I want to start with is that this election is still going on.
Oh yeah.
So RGN, this is to break down the lack of pretension. If you put on the news right now, the lame straight media, man, right? Okay, if you put it on, you'll see, you could watch a tale of two countries. Where if you watch like a CNN, they're essentially the election is over for them, right? MSNBC, it's over for them, and these, and so. But if you put on Fox News, they'll show you that Giuliani's yelling and things are happening, right? I happen to think that Trump's given up already, to be honest.
Yeah.
And is now just being, honestly, one of the five emotions. He's being a bit treasonous right now,
he's a lame duck. He's a lazy ass lame duck.
But what I want to do is actually give you a little election update. Because we still have the election going on. So, Erin,
is this an RGN non-exclusive election update?
This is read right from CBS News. This couldn't
beautiful.
Be. Let's get. Here's the. All right, let's head over to the non-exclusive desk. All right, I'm walking. All right, and there. All right. So here's the deal. One thing we could say is that the Georgia recount, which Donald Trump was well within his rights to do, although there was not a single person, regardless of party, who thought that this would turn the election in his favor at all. Recounts are for like 500 to 1,000 votes. Maybe most of the time they turn over, it seems to be like 100 votes. This was like tens of thousands of votes. And the Georgia recount is now confirmed not only that the election was solid, but also solidly in favor of Mr. Joseph Q. Biden, president-elect.
Joseph Q. Biden.
And that's his middle initial here.
Q.
Everyone's middle initial is Q on this podcast because of QAnon.
Ooh.
That's how you know we keep tabs on everybody. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, so there's that. But these lawsuits. Just to give you an update on these Trump lawsuits. If you start seeing him posting tweets that are like, I won by a lot, blah, 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 whatever he wants to say, let's just get into actually who cares? Just the facts. He can say whatever he wants. Okay, so here's just a bunch of these. I'm just going to read them off. Okay, in Georgia, they filed something about absentee ballots. I'll shorten these because there's so many of them. And the judge dismissed the lawsuit due to lack of evidence. Okay,
big shocker there.
Okay, that's what's going on in Georgia. They have one other lawsuit challenging the inclusion of absentee ballots in the Northern District of Georgia, and this has now been assigned to a judge, so that's pending. Okay. This is the last thing in Georgia. Okay, the case brought by 4 voters sought to exclude from the state's certification that the election results from 8 counties, arguing the ballots in those counties were illegally cast and should be invalidated. This has been dismissed. The 4 voters voluntarily dismissed the case on Monday.
That's a twist.
Yeah. And by the way, all of these cases are paid for by conservative groups.
Yeah.
Including Trump's group. And by the way, remember to check out my boy Anthony Atamic's calls to the Trump voter.
Oh my gosh.
Did you
Dan
watch them?
sent me these and I was watching them all morning. Well, for a while this morning, and they're so funny. I didn't know you get a live person when you call the Trump voter fraud hotline.
A couple fun facts about it. If you call the Trump voter fraud hotline, when you're on hold, you hear speeches of Trump, which is like the equivalent of hearing like Hitler, you know?
Right.
On hold. And
my
he calls
favorite
up
part.
He calls us Ronald Reagan and shit. He's like, all right, so my wife Nancy, I woke up, had a yogurt.
Yeah. And also when you get connected to your Trump fraud hotline agent, doesn't it say like now entering the Trump war room?
Ooh, I didn't hear that. Really?
I'm pretty sure I heard that. Yeah.
Wow. How fast did they mobilize that thing? I mean,
I don't know. And I don't know who the people are who are answering the phone, where they are, who they got to do this, or how much they're being paid. But
as a matter of fact, guys, I'm actually going to do something right now. This is actually an RGN exclusive, which is super rare. I'm going to open up the Comedians in Wrestling podcast cash-in line for Trump voter fraud.
Really? You're doing that for free for the Trump campaign?
I'm going to do that for free.
Wow.
So all you got to do, if you, I'm doing this for the president. He is technically my president until January 20th. Okay. And then he'll be sworn out. They should have a swearing out. It's just like a fuck off or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
he's not going to show up. So
no, he's not going to be there. But I'm saying, here's what we do. We have a so listen, you'll call up the pod. It's gonna say this is the Comedians of Wrestling line, whatever. But you hear my voice. If you hear my voice, don't worry. We can sift through all that. Okay.
Yeah, we get a lot of voicemails, but we'll be able to pick yours out.
Absolutely. And the Trump, you leave if you know of any incidents of fraud. Okay.
Yeah.
You leave me a voicemail. I'll play it here on the podcast. Okay. You say, explain the fraud, what you saw, And we'll play it here on the podcast because I mean, why not give it? This is his right. It's his right. He hasn't conceded yet, so let's do it. So you leave us a voicemail at 316-530-2429-316 530-2429. I swear to you, that will get access to us if you're.
It's a toll-free number if you're calling within the continental United States. Go ahead, call, report your voter fraud to the hotline, and
because they shut theirs down now.
Oh, it's shut down.
I think it's
just
down,
a web
so
form.
We're gonna keep it going here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna
you
keep
can't
this
call
open.
them. Call us.
I'm going to keep this open for the whole first year of Biden's stolen presidency.
Wow.
So
like future instances of fraud.
And maybe we'll change the number. Right now, let's give you the count number. Maybe we'll have our own fraud hotline.
Any type of what can we report other types of fraud that we might see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything you really want to report, specifically anything that is offensive to our dear press.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay.
So this is the thing. So the thing is they follow these lawsuits because it's just like Trump in business, where he's like, you just sue. Like they literally teach you in business school, which I've went to, like sue everybody. Like when in doubt, just sue everybody. You know?
Right.
And so because you're like, whatever, you could just toss it out, and that's what's happening. Is like now these people are going up before a judge, and they're just like, just kidding. They make you like swear in on the Bible.
Right.
Okay, here we go. Michigan.
I heard about the one in Detroit.
There's one case pending. Okay, still that's in the Western District of Michigan.
Okay.
These seem to be all about absentee voting. By the way, mail-in ballots, they're just called absentee ballots in all these cases, which Trump was like, absentee ballots are fine. Okay. And then so that one's pending. So there's still one going there. Okay, here we go. Trump versus Benson, Michigan court claims. Okay, same thing. This is the same exact thing that they said there was no one present to vote this. Judge Cynthia Stevens denied the Trump campaign's request to halt the ballot counting process. She wanted to. Okay.
Was that which one was that? Benson, you said? Okay.
Then in Wayne County Circuit Court here.
This is the one that I read about.
Right. Okay, so this is one. Okay, this looks all right. So here we go. This is 2 Michigan voters alleged that there were numerous instances of fraud and misconduct in Wayne County. Isn't that where you're from?
I'm from Oakland County. Wayne County is where like Detroit is, so that's kind of a really dense voter population. Right.
So they asked the court to block certification. They also called for an independent audit of the general election and asked the judge to void the results of the November 3rd election, order a new election be held. Okay, so there's a chance right here. Let's see.
Whoa, a new election?
There's a chance we're going to have another election.
Wow,
election, okay?
I don't think
you didn't know? So Judge Timothy Kenny raised issues with affidavits that allege fraud. Writing in an order Friday, the election challengers who claim misconduct did not have full understanding of the absent ballot tabulation process. Their interpretation of the events, he said, is incorrect and not credible. As a result, Kenny denied their request. The plaintiffs asked the Michigan Court of Appeals to review it. And on Monday, yesterday, the Michigan Court of Appeals denied the request for review for failure to persuade the court of existence in manifest error. So it looks like we got 1 case pending in Michigan and 2 denied. Okay?
Yeah. And pending, I think, just means it's on its way to court to eventually be denied. It's not pending it's just pending. Let's look
at
it.
Pending conviction.
Pending,
no. Okay, let's go. You want to hear Nevada? There's one case going on here.
Oh, yeah.
Nevada order. 2 congressional candidates and poll observer claimed that in Clark County there were lax procedures for authenticating ballots and ineligible people were voting. The group, with the backing of the Trump campaign, asked the judge to order the country to stop using its signature verification software system. Erin, would you like to guess what's the result of this?
This is Nevada, you said?
Oh, man, I wish I had the fucking gavel sound from SBU.
Yeah.
I got to get that for RGM for the future, right? All right.
So this is Nevada. I'm going to say this one was dismissed.
Denied. Federal judge. Denied.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. All right, here we go.
Who's up next?
Okay, now we're in Pennsylvania. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Where all the dead people vote, right?
Okay, this is where all the deads vote. Very scary, very scary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ghosts at the polls.
This isn't even
I
our
saw
topic for today. This is just a fun thing we stumbled across.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Erin, are you
Yeah.
ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is Trump versus Bukvar, U.S. District Court for
we know
Middle
Bukvar, the
District of
Secretary of State.
Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
Who is that? Secretary of State?
Yeah, I think so. She's like doing all the press conferences.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
tabulating votes.
Yeah. An amended complaint from the Trump campaign drops claims it was denied meaningful access to observe and monitor the electoral process through its poll watchers, but alleges disparate treatment of mail-in voters among different counties. Where in blue counties, they had opportunities to fix their ballots. The campaign estimates more than 680,000 ballots were processed in 2 Pennsylvania counties, Allegheny and Philadelphia, when no observation was allowed, and is seeking to block Bukvar from certifying the results of the election. Erin, what would you like to guess is happening with this case?
Well, I used to live in Pennsylvania in Philadelphia County, and based on that knowledge, I'm going to say this one was dismissed.
Oral argument is set for Tuesday, and an evidentiary hearing is scheduled for Thursday. Pending, Erin.
Pending.
Pending.
Oh, I was wrong. Okay, not dismissed yet.
Ooh, look at this. Trump and RNC versus Bukvar, Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. At issue in the dispute is a deadline extended by the Secretary of State for mail-in voters to verify proof of identification. The Trump campaign sought to block counties from allowing mail-in voters from providing missing proof of identification for ballots received between the 4th and the 6th, which were segregated by election officials as part of another pending dispute. Erin, what do you think happened here?
This was about the segregated ballots we heard so much about.
Yes.
I'm going to say this one was dismissed.
Judge Mary Hannah Levitt blocked counties from counting segregated ballots in their official tallies.
So she did what they wanted.
Yeah, so it looks like that's a big win.
That's a win. I'm pretty sure in Allegheny County, there was 129 segregated ballots that we kept hearing about.
That's right.
So
Trump's
that
got
129 votes, I mean, good on you.
Okay. Oh, we'll do a couple more of these, all right?
Okay,
There's a
this is a
million
fun
of them.
quiz.
There's a
testing our
million
election
of them. All right, ready? Here we go. Trump versus Montgomery County Board of
Oh,
Elections.
Montgomery County. Philadelphia suburbs.
Yes, Court of Common Pleas of Montgomery. Trump campaign is seeking to toss out roughly 600 mail-in ballots.
Ooh. And the lead is about 59,000 votes in PA, I believe. Okay.
This guy will stop at nothing. Oh, man. Oh.
Litigation, baby. Okay, so
Oh, man.
600 ballots.
Well, the thing I realized from watching Bill Maher, they had that woman I showed you. I told you about it. You watched it. They had that woman. She's a lawyer for the Trump campaign, and at the end, Bill Maher does a nice job of pointing out that she's evangelical, and you're like, oh, because the whole time you're kind of like, is this worth the money? Like, you look like an asshole. You know what I mean? You're like, you know, you're gonna lose. You have to like sit up there with literally like a fake smile, like
right.
yes, thank you for the question. But you know, like it's like when you have to have that conversation where you're not. I'm getting, and as I get older, I'm getting worse and worse at just like having a bullshit conversation, like where like we're both saying something, but we want to say we're thinking something different. And you're like, you know, that's why I do this shit, so I can just say whatever I need to say. Anyway, so this woman, like, it's basically, I'm like, oh, I get it. It's because like. This is for her this is like she's doing her part for Jesus. It's like not for money. It is for money, but it's also,
her like duty as a evangelical
it's like
Christian.
She tried, and then she can go to like church and be like I mean
at the pearly gates, she'll be
Right.
able to tell whoever meets you there.
The checking guy.
Yeah, the check-in guy.
And the guy with the
before
clipboard.
he gives you your key to your suite.
Oh man. Okay, so he's looking to toss out 600 mail-in ballots
Oof.
and ask the state court to reverse a decision by the Montgomery County of Elections denying their objection to counting mail-in ballots for which outer declaration envelopes were missing information. Erin, what do you think happened here? I'll give you a hint. We do have a verdict.
Boom, dismissed.
Judge Richard has denied the Trump's campaign progressed through the vote decision and toss-out ballots. That 600 votes
Montco.
counted.
Lit.
Add
Add that to Joe's pile.
Okay, all right. We'll do one more of these. Okay. Perkle versus Wolf, U.S. District Court of the Middle District of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this is PA.
Okay.
Governor Wolf.
4 Pennsylvania voters attempted to exclude presidential election results from Philadelphia, Montgomery, Delaware, and Allegheny counties and block state officials from certifying the election results, alleging illegal voters were cast in those counties. Erin, what do you think happened here?
I think ghosts were voting. I think they were trying to stop the dead vote. But I think that this one, ruled in favor of Wolf. Dismissed.
Curveball. The voters who brought the case voluntarily dismissed it. That's always the best one. Never mind.
You know what? This is going nowhere.
I have better shit to do. Forgot I got to pick up the kids from soccer. I can't make it. I better just let it go. It's 400.
This is too much paperwork. I don't even have a printer. This is too much.
Lot of
PA litigation.
There's not that many more. But and all right, we'll do one more of Wisconsin just so we hit Wisconsin.
Oh, okay, yeah, we gotta hit them.
Langerhorst versus Pecor, U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. 3 Wisconsin voters claimed illegal votes were cast in Milwaukee, Dane, and Menominee counties, and asked for results from those countries to be excluded in the state certification. What do you think happened, Erin?
Dismissed. They are getting that recount, though, right?
The GOP voters voluntarily dropped the case.
Swerved again.
Sorry.
Again. Wow.
Oh, man. Anyway.
I'm not doing so hot on this quiz, but congratulations to all the people who brought those cases and volunteered to withdraw them. Congrats to the 600 Trump for those 600 ballots. No, the 129 segregated ballots. Congrats to Joe Biden for the 600 votes in Montgomery County.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge results.
Well, we don't know they're for Joe Biden, but
they could have been for Joe Jurgensen.
I think the states. I think statistically, probably 80% of them were for Joe Biden. Anyway, everyone's asshole uncle gets to vote. Never forget. Okay. So anyway, there's that. Okay. So all right. So let's move on from that to the election. Looking like Joe Biden will become your president. So I think that's my conclusion. There. So let's move on to the coronavirus, which I feel like, just like Trump, we've been ignoring for this whole podcast.
This old chestnut.
Well, Erin, let me ask you something. Holidays coming up, Thanksgiving coming up. What is your COVID Thanksgiving plan?
Oh, my COVID Thanksgiving plan is, as you know, I'm embedded here in LA, and I'll remain embedded here in my apartment on Thanksgiving and Christmas with my husband and my animals. And that's it.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere, not going to see anyone I don't already see all the time. What about you?
Erin, let me tell you what my plan is.
Okay.
My plan is very similar. I'll be embedded here in my apartment with my wife and my animals.
Oh.
But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have somebody come check my chimney, get my fireplace working. That's
really?
my holiday plan. But yeah, I mean, I just want to say,
season.
'Tis the season. I have a fireplace that I've not been using. I'm going to turn that on. That's going to be the equivalent of my family this year. Is the warm embrace of hugging your family members, hugging a fire.
Well, Dan, you know that heat also kills the coronavirus, so you might be able to open your doors.
I might be able to, but this is LA, and when I was walking my dogs yesterday, I walked by just a fully naked man, just full naked, just was literally just walking, me, my wife, and my dogs, walking the neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and just a naked guy like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Hey. That's
No
LA.
sign of
If you want,
clothes.
yeah, let me tell you something. One thing that Trump nailed during the campaign is shitting on LA. And,
Yeah.
and
I've
let me
been
tell
here.
you, yeah, nothing they said was inaccurate about Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Can't beat it though.
yeah. Well, it is. It is dope. Like it is. Like I wake up cold in LA. Like let me tell you what it's
Uh,
like living in Los Angeles. If you're curious, and I think some of you might be because I was always curious what LA was when I was growing up. I was like,
yeah.
what's California like? And let me
Right.
tell you, it goes down smooth every time. Um,
Can't deny the facts.
like right now, it's kind of cold because it's November,
Well, yeah.
and you wake up like cold,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh wow, it's cold, and like your brain goes into like
Ooh, like I'm in my
winter mode, and
jammies.
then you go
Yeah.
outside and it's not cold at all.
Yeah.
And then you
So
put on shorts and a t-shirt, and you're like,
yeah, it's great. It's cold when it needs to be, like when you're trying to sleep and like you get all snuggled up, and
yeah,
then it's hot during the day when you don't want to have to wear too much clothes.
yeah, it's pretty choice. Okay, but so I just want to say something about Thanksgiving. So it's like they asked Biden about Thanksgiving, like what do you tell people to do, and he was like, hey, if you're gonna do it, try to be with that 5 people,
Mm-hmm.
if you got to do it, and he's like at most 10. I'm not exactly sure what he was thinking there because then they had this scientist on who was like, it doesn't really matter how many doctor. It's like, it doesn't matter how many people have you on. It's just don't see people you haven't been quarantining with.
Right.
So like if you live in a house with like 10 people and yet you've all been in there and you're all doing your thing and you have like
Right.
your safety precautions going, then have Thanksgiving with those people. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I think that's what I would do. Unfortunately for me is that I'm a little isolated out west, so I haven't been
Yeah,
quarantining
same.
with anybody. But
Yeah, I'd say it kind of makes sense if you're with your pod to stay with your pod, but don't, introduce all your like grandmom to the scene.
yeah, I mean, guys, I just think like, look, I don't know what to say to you guys. Do what you're gonna do, but ultimately, if you see Canada right now, they had Canadian Thanksgiving. Now they're spiking already. Um, man, if you have people in your family who are vulnerable and they're like, who gives a shit? But like, I just want to see. It's like, don't do it. It's just
This
don't do
is
it.
like the one Thanksgiving. Like we've had 100 of them before. You'll have more.
Yeah.
Let's just be safe this one time and see how it goes.
Unless you could do it outside with masks on or whatever,
If you
If
live
you
in
live,
California,
yeah.
maybe.
Um, sweet. So anyway, before we get to coronavirus here, my topic of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to say something interesting. I got my buddy is in, uh, he's in South Korea. Okay.
Oh.
Um, my friend Jimmy Simpson, he's an actor,
Oh.
and he posted
Yeah.
a picture. He posted a picture. He posted a video. So, and so he has to fly over there, and he's quarantining. They make him do a government quarantine. You know,
So
uh,
Jimmy flew from LA to South Korea and then immediately went into a government mandated
I think
quarantine.
2 weeks quarantine. That's like
Okay.
he's in a government mandated quarantine, which they give you the place to live. They give you like your food. You're not like allowed to leave. You know what I
Cool.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he posted this video, which and which you're like, oh man, they're taking it so seriously over there. But you're like at the same time, you're like, look at the proportions of deaths. Literally, it's like they have 500 people who died.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah. I thought it was 5,000.
I think it's 500.
Whoa. That's
And,
crazy.
which was by do it by portion of population. Like in
Yeah.
America, that would equate to like
Holy shit.
that would equate to like a couple thousand
494.
deaths. You know?
Yeah. Wow.
So it's just crazy. We can really
Wow.
get this thing under control. It's pretty much voluntary, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's crazy as we get further away from this Trump administration, doesn't it start being even crazier? You're like you can't even believe. Now, if you look at the Dakotas, which are like insane, not even they're saying
Yeah.
that Iowa right now, they're literally saying that in Iowa, uh, that you are if you take a test, you're more likely to have it than not.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And the Dakotas, it's crazy because there's not even that many people who live there.
No, you're right. But the Dakotas, they still have no mask mandate.
Oh
There's
yeah.
people are refusing to wear masks. It's just insane. You can protect yourself. I don't understand it at all. Anyway, okay. So, in good news though, we have these vaccines that right now Pfizer and Moderna both reporting 90 something percent
Yeah, Moderna came in
effectivity is the word, right?
effectivity.
Effectivity.
Yeah, Moderna came in with a 4.5% edge on the previously reported Pfizer. So Pfizer was at 90% effective, and the Moderna one is
Right.
a little bit more
And if
effective.
you're curious what that means, because I still am, we have an episode. Go, I think it's called "What the F is a Vaccine."
Yeah,
And go to that, and it
I
explains
learned a lot that
what the
day.
percentages mean. Because I didn't know what that means, and they still why I do this podcast. They don't explain this shit. So anyway, here's my question on for today. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing we know is the coronavirus is out of fucking control right now. So what I wanted to know is what's going on with the stimulus bill, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, the stimulus bill is going to happen. And I'm kind of like, here's what I don't understand. Here was my question. I'm like, what do Republicans want to do and what the Democrats want to do? Just simple. Because I don't
Mhm.
fully understand it, you know?
Right.
And to be honest, I dug into this and it's it kind of gives you this like icky feeling of our politics. It's kind of murky what they both want. Because there's not actual I don't think there's total truth coming out of. I would like to say one party, which is the GOP. I feel like the Republicans, when you kind of break it down, they're now accepting the fact that a stimulus bill is. So it feels like the Republicans, from what I'm looking at, it, I think they don't want to pass anything, right? Now,
Oh.
like now they both agree that it has to happen, that we need some kind of stimulus bill, but like the subtext is kind of like feels like, all right, we rather not give we'd rather not give out money is what it kind of feels like. So like that's kind of what's not being said. They don't want to contribute to the deficit.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the deficits went up like crazy under Trump's America. So I don't fully understand that element of it, but okay. The other element of this thing that's really confusing is Democrats claim here. Hold on, I'm gonna bring this up so I can just read it exactly. But it's almost like it's almost like the pageantry of it. What's being said, and this is what you hear, is what's being said is that all right, is that Democrats are like hiding these like liberal agendas in the bills and spending more money, right?
Oh, okay.
Like for example, McConnell gave this explanation that was like, oh, they want to like bail out the airlines, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but like also they put these clean fuel emissions things in too, and they're like, we don't want
Oh.
that, and you're like, all right, like, I don't know, I'm just like. That's really like when we're in this much of a crisis. Is that really what's going on? I'm not exactly sure.
And so if that's a roadblock, like, should we really be doing that right now?
Right. Plus, Trump was like, let's get a stimulus bill passed, but like it doesn't happen. And it feels like Mitch McConnell's not always like forthcoming. I've seen Ted Cruz talk about like they want to limit spending. All right. So here's the deal. The this is like complicated, okay? But they both agreed now for a need or for a second round of stimulus bills. So we haven't got one since like I think March, like 8 months ago or something.
Yeah.
So what they disagree on is what form the stimulus should take and how much it should cost, okay? And little progress has been made since the election. And what can be done in the lame duck session leading up to the inauguration of Joe Biden remains to be unseen. So that's the other thing. I'm like, specifically a lame duck session is where not a lot happens, okay?
Right.
Couple reasons why. First off, Donald Trump can veto anything, okay? And right now, who fucking knows what he wants? He doesn't now it's very unclear. He's out to sea. You know what I mean? He's out to lunch.
Right. He's hitting the links.
Right. So he tweeted on the 14th, like, we need a COVID relief bill, but who's to say? I think, truthfully, in my opinion, he would sign anything. But that being said, Mitch McConnell, well, like, those guys will use this as an excuse for other reasons not to pass these bills. Like, if their intention is to not spend money, right?
Right.
Because that's the whole thing, is like, part of the core values of the Republican Party is the lack of government. So then when you get to this place of like government intervention, they have a fundamental disagreement. And so this two-party system of compromise ends up being this actual just roadblock. And that's what we're getting to now. As the country split, we actually get nothing done.
Right. Well, and if they're against spending, the Democrats' package is significantly larger than what the GOP has proposed also. So another kind of roadblock.
Right.
Because they can't agree.
So Trump says that, like, oh, man, this shit is so complicated. So Trump says, like, he puts this tweet out: Congress must now do a COVID relief bill. Need Democrats' support. Make it big and focus. Get it done. So he's acting like the Democrats are in the way of making it big. But the Democrats have proposed a huge, like, $6 trillion,
Yes.
$2.2 trillion HEROES Act, right? That's already passed in the House because the House was, Democratic based. Pelosi's already put that on the table in the Senate. They voted it down. They did kind of like a pageantry vote, I think in October they were calling it, kind of where Mitch McConnell, just to look like, hey, we're working together, got in there knowing they're going to vote it down. Literally the votes go exactly down party lines. There's no one going across the aisle at all. It's Democrats vote yes, Republicans vote no. That's exactly what's happening. So this shit, I'm saying, this is, and by the way, this is not a sexy conversation. This is why you don't hear this on the news. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it's like, but this is what I fucking want to know. What the fuck is happening in the Congress?
This is why they don't explain it to you on the news.
So then Trump says that, but then also there's an article separately, which I won't get into, where the White House has stepped back from their $1.9 trillion proposal leading up to the election. So Trump, leading up to the election, he was saying, I'm going to put all this money to the economy. They've already went back on that, so that's not even a thing. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So, should we skip over this? Here we go. This is a large stimulus package would likely include an array of things similar to the revised $2.3 trillion HEROES Act that passed the House in early October. Okay, so this is the stuff the Democrats want, which is the $1,200 stimulus check, additional federal unemployment benefits, and aids to the cities and states, which is a key issue that I figured out. Okay? Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, he's negotiating on behalf of the Trump administration, is pushing back on the aid to the city and states, okay, when the negotiations last stopped, okay? So this is what I'm digging into this, is that the Republicans see giving funding to cities and states as a blue bailout, is what they call it.
Right.
Saying, like, you guys overspent and now you're asking us for money on, that's talking about, like, testings, like having testing sites, probably buying masks. I don't even know exactly what we're talking about. Putting your own state funds into unemployment because the city wouldn't do it. Put it in. Any kind of safety protocols they've put into place. So, like, you see what we're dealing with here.
Right.
Like,
Well, and because the federal government didn't come to bat on those things to begin with, the states had to spend their own money, right? So now they're seeking some relief with this government package, federal package, I mean.
Wait, what are you saying?
So, like, the things that the states need money for from the feds is the stuff that the feds wouldn't fund in the first place because all the states were kind of left to their own devices, right?
And states and cities were just spending money to, like, they were literally buying stuff. I mean, they did get federal funds, but they spent what they'll argue is too much. So there's this impasse going on, which is Mitch McConnell on paper agrees stuff needs to be done, but he says that, Pelosi and Schumer are looking at something dramatically larger than we're looking for. It's not a place I think we're willing to go, but I do think there needs to be a package. Hopefully we can get past the impasse we've had for 4 or 5 months and get serious, okay? So here's the impasses is, like I told you, this blue state bailout, okay? So their budget shortfalls are hitting states and cities across the political spectrum. State and local governments depend on revenue from sales and property taxes, but every state except Vermont has to balance its budget. Sales tax revenues are falling, and property tax revenue will be properly affected. So it's like, you're not paying sales tax, everyone's spending way less,
Right.
And so the revenues are falling, and they're going to start laying off people, cutting services, education, policing, firefighters, those kind of services that state and local government provide. So that's another thing, is that, like, because there's less sales tax revenue being pumped into the economy, people are saving more or don't have anything to spend, right?
Yeah.
That's why you pump money into the economy, because that gives tax money, right? Property tax bills are just being not paid. People are like trying to feed themselves, so they're not paying their property tax, So, yeah, okay. So they see that as a blue state bailout, which I don't get at all. I don't understand why they're, I don't understand any of the logic of the Republican Party as it comes to this virus. Like, you could complain about the Democrats all you want, and someone like Zan, who's a socialist, come on and say that the Democrats function within right-wing frames, and I see his point.
Mm-hmm.
I see what he means. I see what you're saying, is that they're both two heads when it comes down to progress, real, true progress. But given where we're at right now, like, I'm always focused on the short term. I'm always focused. I'm not always focused on short time, but I'm like, let's look at what we have here.
Right.
There's one party that continuously has this, like, blind spot for, I don't know, cause and effect, or like the two sides of the of like. It's like, all right, if you fall off a waterfall here because you want to go the other way, there's another waterfall there. They'll just keep going either way. I don't have a good metaphor for this,
right,
but you're
right.
like, it's like, all right, so you don't want to bail anybody out. You want the economy to just do its own thing, but then you also don't want to promote proper scientific COVID prevention measures so that the economy can continue.
That's so stupid.
It makes no real sense.
Right.
Okay, so here's the other source of the impasse that and quote unquote impasse from Mitch McConnell is the amount of federal unemployment payments and aid to the city and states. Republicans see I already said the city and states. Republicans see the former, at least the $600 per week that the Democrats are requesting, as overly generous and a disincentive for the unemployed to return to work. Even though evidence does not support that claim. So, yeah, I mean, I whenever I hear that, I'm like, well, as just a fucking guy, like, those guys can't be like, all right, let's do 300, right?
Right.
Just to give people something.
Can't we, like, hammer out an amount that's acceptable to both sides?
I mean, where are you at on that, Erin? Do you think that
the $600 a week? I think it's hard to say. I guess $600 a week is pretty generous, but
it's definitely a lot of money.
Yeah, so that's maybe like $2,400 a month, which is,
well, that's on top, but that'll be on top of your regular unemployment payment. So, like, in California, that's normally like $450. So you're probably getting like $1,000 a week.
$1,000 a week, so $4,000 a month.
It's, first off, it's not a crazy amount of money. It just feels like a lot of money. It feels like a lot of money to just give people for not working, but at the same time, it's like, if we had a functioning society, this would be the amount we're giving people to quarantine, right? Like, that's why we don't have effective messaging, where it's like, hey, we're going to tell you, don't, even if it is like, stop your job search, let's stop the spread of the virus or something. But our strategy's all over the place, so I don't even really understand,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is a lot if it's on top of your regular unemployment, but I'm not opposed to it, because I know people who are, like, living off that money right now, and it's not like they're, like, blowing it at the mall or whatever. They're trying to make things work with the money that they do get. So I don't know, it's hard for me to say, but I think that if they think that's too much, then like you said, why can't we smooth something out where it's like, well, you get 450 a week
I
or
also don't understand. Our systems are so fucking archaic. It's like, why is that the blanket money we give people? Like, why can't we determine how many people are in a household and then
right.
give people money
Well,
like
like they do with our
appropriately?
stimulus checks, right? Like if you
Right.
have kids, you get a prorated amount. If you don't, you just get the single person rate.
I'm like, why are these systems like? Fine, maybe that's a lot of money to give like a single 25-year-old actor in L.A. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right,
fine, maybe that's maybe too much money to give them, but like, I don't know. Then also you factor in the cost of living in certain places and whatnot. I don't know. The whole thing's crazy. But all I just know is like, why can't they get? Forget about the extra 600. Blah blah blah.
right.
They just need to extend the unemployment. So whatever the unemployment is, people are going to have a harder time finding jobs logically, right?
Because there's less of them.
Yeah, we see the economy's tanking, so I don't really, I'm not exactly sure of that. But anyway, yeah, so it seems like the Senate, the Senate is takes their break for the year, like December 10th, I think.
Yeah. Then they're out till January.
Right, and then they're gone. I don't know how they get this awesome schedule, but
Well,
yeah, but anyway, so here, but what's there have been signs of they're saying now that the economic recovery right now is flattening. Like the stimulus bill, no one's debating if the stimulus bill needs to happen, but yeah, like that seems to be where it is. It's there's just this, not to mention the other X factor of it, which is like anything that happens now is a win for Joe Biden. If the economy comes back and the Republicans don't want that, Mitch McConnell, he's come in,
right.
what he does, why he has that job,
Ugh.
why he stays in that job is his job is to make Biden look ineffective. You know?
He's so nasty.
So anyway, that's really what it comes down to here is what do the Republicans, Democrats want? It's a very complicated question from everything I had to look at so many articles to do this. Not my normal just two, but there's so many
Ooh.
questions about why lame ducks. Normally nothing gets passed during a lame duck
Mm-hmm.
period. Plus, you have an absentee president. He was literally on the golf course. I mean, this is just a crazy, crazy, crazy time for America. Not to mention Republicans. They think artificially pumping up the economy is it leads to the deficit, and they don't fundamentally believe in it. And yeah,
It's
and
crazy.
also
Like
yeah,
it's
they
been
can't find it.
so long. Like I don't know. My stimulus check that I got back in May, I gave right back to the government to pay my taxes with, and
Right,
then some. So I don't know. I mean, like it just feels like it was forever ago, and this has been going on for so long. It's a
right.
shame.
Uh, yeah. So right. And oh God, it's so ugly the way this looks. It's like if I'm talking about the filler I read in articles. It's all
Mm-hmm.
like Republicans saying, "Oh, Pelosi's been holding out on making a real deal because she wanted to make the Democrats look, the Republicans look bad leading into the election," and some of that's got to be true. I mean, like politics is a game, and unfortunately, has winners and losers. Anything is winners and losers is a game, and these people have their paychecks and their careers on the line. Unfortunately, that's just, part of the downside of our system of democracy. Really, is that your
Mm-hmm.
job is finite terms. So yeah, this I don't see how we break through this or what exactly is going to happen. Uh,
Don't
we'll,
hold your breath for that check, folks.
no, or the vaccine because there seems to be that's another thing we'll talk about on another episode. But the distribution for the vaccine is not really where it needs to be. Um, that's a whole other undertaking. Biden's he's not being transitioned properly
Right.
due to Trump. So yeah, we're really in for it. And I wish I had like a more positive way to end this pod, but it's like I don't really see this is what it is. It's these people are all just bullshit. They have
Right.
the thing is like it seems to me from my conclusion from reading this as a regular guy
Mm-hmm.
is that our system sounds good because it's like these are elected officials, representatives of the people, you know. But we have these. The two-party system is the curveball of the whole ideal, you know.
Right.
And I mean, I know I sound like a fucking moron, right? But I'm literally just looking at this like a regular guy. I'm like, yeah, the two-party system, because you have these parties that are so in line with each other. They seem to have there's no like individualism of these, like they're like, you know, like Mitch McConnell was like, oh, I don't think, he literally had a quote I read that was like, I don't think I'm representing the people who elect me if I voted for this stimulus deal. And you're kind of like, is that even true? Are they like, they don't want unemployment? They don't, you know, they don't want to be bailed out during a national crisis. I'm kind of like, is that even true? Or do they
Or
just
is it like a
not
scapegoat
want
for
their
Mitch?
guns to get taken away? And you're
Right.
lumping like this fiscal conservatism into that? Or I don't know, fiscal conservatism. I mean, who's to say that even applies right here when we're in the middle of a pandemic, you know? But yeah, we're at this stalemate. They vote against exactly on party lines, but they have the things, they fundamental differences in how the government should operate, and one party is completely against government. So why even be in government?
Right.
Your job is to block government?
You get into government to reduce.
Well, you
The
could reduce
effectiveness?
government, but reduce effectiveness, right? Like,
Yeah.
you should, like, the whole idea, like, and that came from Reagan. Like, you know, it's like, the government's the problem, right? And you're like, well, no, the problem is a government's literally sitting. They're literally sitting on stimulus money. That's like a not functioning government. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Hit us up in the mailbag. Tell me what I'm not seeing, what I am seeing. I don't know, but I don't see how we get out of this part of this without at this point. If Democrats don't win those Senate seats, it's gonna be wild. You know,
It's gonna be a dark winter, folks.
Right. I guess the stimulus will. The only way it's gonna get passed is just that if stuff gets even worse, like it has to get full doomsday. You know.
I mean, even if it gets full doomsday, I don't think that their demands will change. Like, I don't see it happening. I mean, we're going into what people are saying is doomsday, and it's not, shaking them at all.
No, I don't know. I mean, so I'll tell you, I'll actually leave this podcast on a story. It's yeah. So I was looking at we dabble with moving here, but like we haven't actually like found a place. We're not like that much in a rush. But this guy was showing me a place, and we're wearing masks. He's got the mask under his nose. I'm like,
it's a faux pas.
Yeah, what is this guy doing? All right, and whatever. I'm like, So then later on in the tour, I sneezed, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go over here to sneeze because these sneezes can be deadly now. Like, it was kind of like a joke, to be honest, like a little just a light comment, like
right,
a way to excuse myself.
Of course.
And the guy was starting in on like, yeah, listen, don't worry about that, man. The coronavirus is 98% like non-deadly, and like, look at the stats. We'll do what we can with the masks to like spread it and like blah 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 and this and that. And I was like, oh, it's just like, it's like you have two ways to look at this situation: as a crisis, which it is, right?
It's killing
or you
people.
can look at it as how it affects you.
Right.
Like you kind of have two options here where it's like, all right. And so when you look at 98 point blah, blah, blah %, you're just like, yeah, I'll probably be fine. But look at people who are not fine from this. There's a lot of them. And if we stay in the course right now, it's looking like we'll have something like 500,000 deaths by the time Biden's inaugurated.
Jesus.
It's half a million people.
Yeah.
So something close to that,
We're at like 240 something now.
Right. And if you look at some of these people who are dying, I'm not trying to be fucking scare you, but I'm like, some of them don't look that unhealthy, man. I don't know why people think, I'm not exactly sure why people think that, I don't know what people like missing, or they're so desensitized to other human beings.
Well, and it's like, do you really want to take that gamble? Like, we've all seen healthy, young folks who've gotten it and have died without pre-existing conditions, or have gotten their family sick and their parents died or whatever. It's just like, it's not, 98 point whatever percent, recoverable. It's still just like, do you want to take that gamble with the lives of the people that you're around? Strangers, your family.
Right. And it's also
Stupid.
like, even people who survive this are like, they're like, it's hell, and they're not sure. We don't know anything about if this virus how it'll affect you later down the line. People are saying they're long haulers, still having symptoms later on.
Yeah,
so
big question marks. Like, people are inexplicably recovering, but still not getting back their sense of taste. Like, random issues later. Like, we don't know.
And listen, we all have to live our lives, and there's risks we got to take.
Of course.
But don't be one of those people that just completely diminishing the value. But you see that there's there's just this split in this country on how we see everything, and unfortunately it's I don't think there's any way to really that's just going to be what this is until we get this vaccine. And when this vaccine comes, it's going to be, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I'm going down a wormhole.
Whatever.
It's
don't
all good.
Sneeze on strangers, and also don't disparage strangers from sneezing far away from you.
Right, because what I'll say in the story, and here's kind of a little bit of advice for people to take it or to leave it.
Sure.
That my instinct when somebody makes a comment like that is kind of like an old school instinct of we don't talk politics at the table. But I actually think push back on these people. I did that. I had a guy, my plumber was here. I told you this on the last pod, I think. But my plumber was here. He didn't have a mask on. I said, he's like, hey, should I wear a mask? Isn't that cool guy way to me? To be like, hey. And then a little posturing, and I was like, yes. I said, please wear a mask. Do you need one? I'll get you one. And then he didn't even fucking have one. He had a bandana. Doesn't do anything. He was tying. It didn't even fit around his head. He was, I gave him a mask. That's it. And then he started talking to me, and he was like, hey, whatever. Trump's, he's a jokester. And I was like, he's not a jokester. He's the president. Push back.
Yeah.
Because those moments, people they go whoa, whoa, whoa. They actually, you're like, oh, okay. It show you that there's a human side to it. It's not just the TV. That doesn't mean you have to get into fights, but just don't not say what you believe in because you're don't want to offend somebody, but you don't also have to get into an argument or a fight either. So you know what I mean? If somebody says something like, 98%, when that guy said that, I was already leaving, so I didn't say anything to him.
Right.
And I had the feeling I wouldn't get through to the guy, but I should have said something. He should know. Don't say that to anybody else, or he should think about it differently. Because I think people just, I don't know, they just get whatever. Anyway, Erin. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with this stimulus check. We'll follow that. We'll follow the election results, and we got a bunch of
Votes
stuff laid out.
Votes are still coming in.
Yeah, we'll follow the election. This election's still happening. As far as I'm concerned, this election's still happening. We'll follow some of these cases. We got all these future episodes, topics out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I don't know. This was.
You guys stay safe out there.
This was everybody stay safe, and don't take a risk you're gonna regret. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Thanksgiving's around the corner. It's the holidays. It's just 1 year. You'll be fine. Stay safe. Do the right thing.
That's right. And everybody, thanks for listening to RGN. I appreciate it. The least pretentious name in news. I mean, we couldn't have been less pretentious this week. But everybody, tell a friend about the show. Write us an email, regularguynews@gmail.com, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And everybody, as always, stay regular.